Hello, thank you for clicking on this video and thank you as always for your interest in Precise FP. The purpose of today's video is going to be taking place in the integrations domain. So we're going to go ahead and navigate there within the Precise FP software. That is going to be under settings, so your head and shoulder in the lower left-hand corner. And then we are going to click on integrations. Now, of course, we want our user to have access to the integrations domain. We will also want to ensure that we have access to view what we call the integration mapper on some different integrations here within this domain. Now, for today's purposes, we're going to be using the Redtail integration as an example, but I will clarify that several of our data-based integrations, so an integration tile that says data can import and or export here, so Redtail import and export. You can see Money Guide Pro is export only, eMoney import and export. So you can kind of tell whether that integration is bidirectional or not right off the bat. Those are going to be your data-based integrations. These are the ones that do not exchange any information with an integration partner unless you actually click on the account profile and select either the import or the export option within Precise FP. Okay. So with each of these integrations, one thing to keep in mind is that not every single data-based integration has an open integration mapper. It's really just kind of whether or not the software essentially has additional data that Precise FP could reach and could create custom mappings too. Okay. So suffice it to say, if you do click on an integration tile where it is enabled, and you do not see the option for integration mapper, if your user does have permission to view integration mappers, that very well just may be an integration that doesn't allow kind of custom mapping there. Okay. If you do have any questions about whether or not your integration allows that or whether or not your access allows this, feel free to let us know in our live chat in the bottom right-hand corner of the Precise FP website. Totally happy to answer any questions you have on that. All right. But like I said, today we're going to be focusing on Redtail. So the first thing that I'm going to do is actually move us over to another tab that I have open. This is the Redtail mapping table. This is a guide that you may be sent by Precise FP support. You may stumble upon it in our Help Center, which if you don't know how to access that Help Center, remember your little head and shoulders in the lower left. We can click on help right above that, and then we can click on our knowledge base to go to all of the help guides that Precise FP has ever published for its users. Okay. Or the Redtail mapping table, and then I've clicked on it. This mapping table is going to have a little bit of information at the top. I'm a bit more of kind of like a walkthrough visual learner, so reading stuff doesn't always click in my mind right away. I do find it is a little bit more beneficial to kind of have someone explain a mapping table. I think it, just kind of helps make everything click within your head. So really what those kind of paragraphs here at the top are trying to tell you is that on the left-hand column, these are going to be the integration fields. So we can see our Redtail fields are listed out here in the left-hand side. We can also see that this group of mappings is mapped to contacts within Redtail. Now, specifically, this group is for your client or co-client within Precise FP. So if we move one column over, you can see this is the Precise FP field. The biggest thing to keep in mind when we're talking about the Precise FP field is it is the Precise FP profile or your data set that is mapped to integration partners. Okay, it's never the actual form template itself. Your form template's only job in that respect is to just save data back to the Precise FP profile so it's eligible for integration. Okay, so when we're looking at the Precise FP field listed out here, these kind of three phrases that are listed are going to be the page, the group, and then the very same field within the Precise FP profile that Redtail field is mapped to. Okay, and remember, that's just by enabling the integration. These are the mappings you do not have to build yourself. Okay. With these groups of mappings, each group of mapping is going to have kind of specific pieces of data that will allow the record to integrate between two platforms. That is going to be our required column. So if we are looking at required pieces of data for this group of mappings for our client and co-client, just a heads up that we will need to have a first name, a last name, and then an email address in order to exchange any data between those platforms. Okay. And then on the right there, under comments, this is honestly one of the most helpful sections of the mapping table because it kind of describes the nuances for each integration. Every integration is different. They all have kind of their foundation, how it's built, and then PreciseFP integrates with those different software. And we really just map to as much as we can, right? Not all the time is stuff kind of set up between the two platforms that we are able to exchange that data. So unfortunately, there are just going to be kind of some limitations with some integrations. Right? So the comment section does break down kind of what to expect if you are trying to integrate data. So for example, if we look at the comment section here on the right-hand side for Redtail, your client and co-client, if we want them to be able to integrate, it does need to have in Redtail a family relationship of head for the client, kind of your primary contact of the account or the household. And then we would want the co-client to have a family relationship of spouse. And that's how we can ensure that if we maybe import that existing record from Redtail into PreciseFP, that when we do so, we are getting the head of household and we are also getting their spouse if there is one on file. Okay. Similarly, if we do hop down to something like account mapping, this one, I think the comments are really handy. This is going to be in the actual integration partner that these comments are kind of referring to. But if you're ever kind of wondering, hey, I imported a record from this integration partner. I see insurance as part of the mapping, but I don't see their insurance plans and their profile in PreciseFP. A really helpful thing to look at is actually the comment section within the mapping table because they just need to be labeled a certain way within the integration partner in order to integrate properly when we run an import or an export. Fine. So those are really helpful to kind of look at there. If you do ever have a question about anything on a mapping table, definitely let support know though. Okay. The last thing I'll touch on with these comments section is it is going to break down whether the data can map bidirectionally or whether that data is limited to, say, maybe we can only send it to the integration partner, or maybe we can only pull data from the integration partner into PreciseFP. So the comment section is kind of quietly telling you that with the very first sentence in each of these groups of mappings, right? So everything here starts with integrates. If a comment started with, say, exports records where so-and-so, that is an indicator that that group of mappings, we can only export. So again, we can only send it from PreciseFP to the integration partner. Right. Specifically looking at Redtail, some kind of like helpful notes in that respect is like the employer information with Redtail just only allows import. Okay, so each integration has its own nuances. It's really helpful to read through the mapping table and kind of understand what those might be, so that when you do your first kind of import export, you really know what to expect with the data that's being exchanged between the two platforms. Okay. But these are the default mappings. So what we kind of talked about earlier was the capability with the integrations, if they have an open integration mapper, to actually open and view the mappings between PreciseFP and, in this instance, Redtail. And see what you can customize about them, see if you can add to them. You can even remove mappings if you'd like to. There's lots of different options in the integration mapper in terms of kind of what you can exchange between your two platforms. Okay. So before I open up this mapper, just one more time, this is specific to Redtail. So if you are working in another integration mapper, you may not have as much functionality. Every integration is different, so you'll get different results kind of based on that. So let's go ahead and click open next to the integration mapper. Remember, we do have to have the integration enabled to be able to open the mapper. And then this may look a little similar to that mapping table where we'll have the integration fields on the leftmost column. And then we're going to have the PreciseFP, remember, profile fields here on the rightmost column. We can also see information about groups of mappings here at the top of the group, like who the information is being exchanged for in this group of mappings. We can see whether this mapping can import and export, whether it's export only, whether it's import only. We can see who this affects within PreciseFP. So this mapping, whether the person is a prospect or a client in PreciseFP, this integration is going to exchange just by running an import or an export. Okay. And then you can also filter records as well. Data. Okay. If we scroll a little bit further down, we'll see different groups of mappings for the different contacts that we have just default mapped within the integration. So with Redtail, that's going to be children and other family members. And then here on the right-hand side, you may see additional pages of mappings. And these pages are used to kind of organize the section of Redtail that this information is referring to. Right. All right, so if we're in here, we are absolutely able to remove items. You may note that some mappings are grayed out. You're not able to remove or edit them. That is very purposeful, just because we need to have kind of like name, contact information mapped for the integration to work. We don't really want to fiddle with those too terribly much. However, if we are looking at a group of mappings and it's not grayed out, we can absolutely click on an existing mapping to see options we have for editing that mapping. If we see a connection drop down here in the integration mapper, that is your PreciseFP profile field that the integration is mapped to. If I want to refer back to the Redtail field we're mapped to, it's right here. It's going to be home address. And it looks like it is connected to our plain address field here within the PreciseFP profile. You're also going to have a, in this case, because it's an address field, there's a selector, so you can kind of choose which part of the address you want to exchange when you run an integration. And you may also see a default value option here. That one's nice if you have maybe a piece of data that's true for everybody. Maybe when we export somebody over to Redtail, just they are a US citizen. We want to just have that as a default value, for example. That would be a useful time to set that as a default value within the mapper. So you can edit existing mappings. If you do have an existing mapping that for whatever reason is not working any longer, it will highlight that for you in red here. So we do actually have the capability to custom map pronouns between PreciseFP and Redtail now. We've got a video kind of detailing exactly how to do so, but this red comment is really just highlighting the fact that I actually went in and deleted the field that this Redtail field was mapped to in my PreciseFP profile. So now this mapping, I can still import, export, but this mapping's broken. I can see that. I would need to fix it if I want to exchange any sort of pronoun data between Redtail and PreciseFP. Now, to demonstrate that, in any of these groups of mappings, we'll have a little plus button as well. All right, and we'll have different results based on which group of mappings we click that little plus button in, so feel free to kind of peruse those. But the biggest thing here is when we click to map a new field, the field drop down is the integration partner's available fields. So in this instance, this drop down is showing me all of the Redtail fields that I could additionally map to if I wanted to. With Redtail, that will include the user-defined fields at the contact level here. So you do that opens the door for quite a bit of customization between the two platforms. Because remember, if you have access to your data set on your PreciseFP subscription, you can also customize your PreciseFP profiles as well. So now that being said, maybe I do see a field in this field dropdown that I would like to create a mapping to between Redtail and PreciseFP. If I see it, I can just select it in this dropdown. Otherwise, I can also search for it. I'm going to click on my result, which this is a favorite beverage text field that is actually a user-defined field in my instance of Redtail, just a heads up. And when I select that, we're going to see that connection drop down again. So we're creating a new mapping. So we see the integration field on top, and then the connection is going to be that PreciseFP profile field. Now, favorite beverage is not a field in the PreciseFP profile by default. So just a heads up, that is something I have created custom in my data set. We do have a video on the data set, how to customize it, how to benefit from it within the software as best as possible. So if you are curious about creating that favorite beverage field, I would highly recommend that data set video just to kind of get you started on the right foot. Hi. But I'm going to choose my custom favorite beverage field as my connection. And then I'm sure everybody has a favorite beverage. I don't think everybody's a big fan of just like Coca-Cola or Pepsi. So I'm not going to set a default value. I'm just going to hit Save Changes. And you'll notice my list of mappings got a little bit longer here. I can now see that the Redtail favorite beverage field is mapped to my PreciseFP favorite beverage field in my profiles. If I do have information that I've gathered in PreciseFP on people's favorite beverages, now that this field is mapped, if I do export a profile from PreciseFP to Redtail where we have that favorite beverage on file, we should see that flow over to that Redtail user-defined field as well. With this, what I like to do whenever I am customizing mappings or even just testing an integration is it's very, very nice to create a test prospect within PreciseFP, fill in that profile with a little bit of pretend data, kind of what you want to see exchanged between the two platforms, and then export that profile over to Redtail to create a new record. If everything looks a-okay there, I would say create a record in Redtail as well and import that into PreciseFP. If you're seeing that data come across as expected, it's a really good indicator that your mapping is good to go. It's going to exchange that data. However, if you do get an error upon export or anything, because customizing your integration mappers can cause some errors, that's just kind of part of it. Definitely let us know. We can help you sort those out. There are even a handful of errors that we kind of see pretty regularly. We know how to handle them. So this has been a bit of an overview on the integration mapper and the mapping tables within PreciseFP. Like I've been saying, if you have any more questions, we're always in that live chat in the bottom right-hand corner of PreciseFP. That's us from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern time, Monday through Friday. Thank you very much for your time and best of luck to you with your integration mapping. Take care.